When Albert lost his spouse at the age of 72, everyone around him repeated a familiar refrain: "You're still young enough to find another companion." At first, this advice felt comforting, almost logical. Society often assures us that no one should spend their later years alone. After a couple of years, he decided to take their words to heart and ventured into dating once more. Before long, he met someone who seemed compassionate, patient, and a good conversationalist. They shared jokes, dined together, and enjoyed leisurely walks. However, over time, Albert noticed that the calm sense of contentment he had once cherished in his solitary life was gradually slipping away. His carefully established routines were disrupted. His sleep began to suffer, and minor disagreements seemed to swell into bigger conflicts. For the first time in several years, he found himself not feeling close to this new person, but feeling uneasy and strained. Eventually, Albert took a step back, opting to return to living on his own. He summed up his experience with a statement that stayed with me: "I wasn't lonely when I was alone. I felt lonely when I had to compromise who I was just to keep someone else at ease." We inhabit a culture that celebrates romance, partnership, and the idea of finding a soulmate, sometimes at any stage of life. And there is no denying that for many individuals, especially younger people, strong relationships provide immense meaning and support. Yet there is a quiet reality that doesn't get nearly enough attention. For a number of folks over 65, choosing to remain single can be the far wiser path. This decision has nothing to do with giving up on love or shutting oneself off from companionship. Rather, it is about seeking tranquility, prioritizing rest, and safeguarding one's sense of self. Being unattached during one's later years does not have to signify isolation. It can be liberating. It can grant stability, a sense of waking each morning without having to negotiate your plans or feelings with anyone else, and the priceless feeling of having no internal strain. For countless seniors, this choice allows them not just to survive, but truly flourish in their later stages of life. Today, I want to explain 7 potent reasons why deciding to stay single beyond 65 might not only be better for some people, it could be the most beneficial choice for their well-being, their emotional health, and their overall peace of mind. And I urge you to stick around for the 7th reason, because it's one that few discuss openly, yet it impacts more individuals than you might suspect. Let's begin with the first reason, which revolves around the emotional stress that arises from interpersonal conflict. No matter how harmonious two people may initially appear, relationships, especially those formed later in life, are bound to have friction, divergent habits, misunderstandings, or mismatched perspectives. When people are younger, they often regard these disagreements as part of the growing process, viewing them as inevitable hurdles that can be surmounted with time. But once you're in your mid-60s or older, your energy reserves shift. Patience for drama or quarrels tends to dwindle. Squabbles that might have seemed inconsequential years earlier can now linger, weighing you down mentally and physically. Many seniors notice that tension hits harder than it once did. The aging nervous system can make recovering from emotional turmoil a slower endeavor, and regular disputes, no matter how trivial, can disrupt sleep, provoke worry, and even invite episodes of depression. Consider Harriet, who was 76 when she embarked on a new romance after living alone for nearly a decade. Initially, it seemed exhilarating. She had someone to join her for dinner, a walking companion in the evenings, and they shared anecdotes about their days. But it didn't take long for friction to emerge. Harriet felt criticized for how she chose to manage her free time. She was taken aback by her partner's perpetual calls and messages, which she found smothering rather than reassuring. What started as affectionate closeness grew into unwanted control, reopening wounds from her past that she believed had long since healed. After half a year, Harriet ended the relationship, and the relief in her words felt like finally getting a restful night after years of sleepless tossing and turning. Sadly, her experience is not rare. Many older adults carry old scars from past marriages, the deaths of significant partners, or difficulties within their families. A new relationship can inadvertently reignite those old traumas. While having someone close can be comforting under the right circumstances, it should never come at the cost of your emotional well-being. Choosing to be single means you'll confront fewer sudden triggers, fewer mood fluctuations, and ultimately embrace an environment more conducive to serenity over strife. For a lot of folks, that exchange is more than worthwhile. It can be genuinely life-preserving. The second reason deals with the complexities of finances. As the saying goes, love may be blind, but money sees everything. With age, money is not simply about income. It's about ensuring your security, covering medical costs, protecting the legacies you intend to leave, and retaining your peace of mind. Introducing a new partner later on can lead to merging finances, an entanglement that might pull you from a peaceful retirement into a nerve-wracking financial struggle. In earlier decades, perhaps your 30s or 40s, monetary concerns within a relationship feel more manageable. You still have time to earn additional income, to recuperate from losses, or to strategically grow assets. Yet after 65, the stakes are higher. Most incomes become fixed, budgets more defined, and there is a much thinner margin of error in terms of financial risk. A prospective partner might come with substantial debt or extravagant spending tendencies, or they might assume certain expenses will be split evenly without contributing their fair share. Even simple arrangements, such as deciding who buys the groceries, can become a delicate subject if both parties are on different pages. Michael was 71 when he reunited with an old acquaintance after losing his wife. Their connection quickly intensified, and within a few months, his new partner moved into his home. Eager to show generosity, Michael paid for dinners, weekend getaways, and other household upgrades. But he soon observed that his savings began to dip more quickly than before. His companion had a taste for luxury and just assumed that their finances would balance out somehow, but she rarely matched his spending. Tension mounted the moment Michael confronted her about it, and the sense of comfort he'd initially enjoyed was replaced by unspoken resentment. Moreover, financial entwinements impact more than just day-to-day living expenses. They can affect taxes, retirement benefits, and even certain types of government assistance. Some seniors discover that remarrying or cohabitating can disrupt pensions, health insurance, or Social Security entitlements. Others have to navigate complex and painful discussions regarding the distribution of assets, particularly if adult children are counting on an inheritance. These issues can manifest unexpectedly, and the simple wish for closeness or companionship may spiral into confusion and stress. By remaining single, you hold the reins to your own finances. You're free to allocate funds exactly as you wish, free from the need to justify or defend your purchases to anyone else. You have fought for and earned your independence, and keeping financial matters separate may, in fact, safeguard the peace you rely on. Moving on to the third reason, preserving your personal routine and living space. As time passes, we grow accustomed to habits that shape our daily lives, from the morning tea we sip to the specific hour we prefer to nap. These small rituals become a form of comfort and self-definition, especially when other aspects of life are rapidly changing due to health shifts or family events. But let a new romantic partner enter that carefully constructed routine, and the transformation can be jarring. Suddenly, the small comforts you've cultivated, like how you lay out your newspapers or the sequence in which you do household tasks, have to be reconsidered, negotiated, or even sacrificed. Evelyn, now 73, had spent well over a decade in a cozy, solitary rhythm. She liked waking before dawn to write in her diary, then spent her afternoons knitting or leafing through historical novels. When she started seeing a new companion, optimism spurred her on. They tried spending weekends together, which ultimately led to sharing a home. But that's exactly where disagreements popped up. He enjoyed sleeping late, had the TV blaring in the early hours, and rearranged her meticulously ordered kitchen cabinets without a second thought. The sense of calm she had built over the years was slipping from her grasp. Sometimes this kind of disturbance is subtle, but to the person involved, it can feel monumental. Even trivial seeming compromises, like deciding what to watch on television or where to keep the spices, may lead a senior to feel cornered. having to alter something that used to bring comfort or stability. In your later years, the ability to conduct your day as you see fit, without continuous compromise, can be invaluable. When you remain single, that autonomy remains intact. No one else's moods or preferences dictate what time you rise or what you do next. For a lot of seniors, such freedom resonates more deeply than the company of a partner ever could. The fourth reason relates to the burden of caregiving. Whether we anticipate it or not, almost every older adult confronts health challenges. You or the person you're with might encounter significant medical complications or develop mobility issues. While caring for a loved one is an act often rooted in empathy and devotion, it isn't free of hurdles. Stepping into the role of caretaker can be physically exhausting, emotionally taxing, and quietly isolating, particularly when you are also in your later years. Harold, age 79, met Belinda through a local gathering at his community center. The two quickly bonded, moving in together within 4 months. Things seemed fine at the outset, but before a year had passed, Belinda's mobility began to deteriorate. Harold found himself assisting her with everyday tasks, monitoring her medications, overseeing meals, and keeping the household in order, virtually on his own. Although he rarely complained, the exhaustion built. He struggled with high blood pressure and had more and more difficulty sleeping. His once peaceful retirement slipped away, replaced by a non-stop cycle of responsibility. Caregiving is not immoral or wrong. Countless people willingly provide assistance when their partner's health declines. It can be an expression of deep love. Yet it can also catch you unprepared, forging a new daily routine that is rigorous and stressful. It is even more overwhelming if you're also facing the inevitable challenges of aging yourself. By staying single, many seniors either avoid the heartbreak of witnessing a partner's decline or the need to shoulder constant caregiving tasks with limited resources. It's not about a lack of empathy. Rather, it's about recognizing that our reserves of time, health, and emotional resilience become more limited as we age. For some, preserving the health and peace that remains is a critical priority. Independence at this point is less about selfishness and more about self-preservation. Safeguarding your sense of peace might require drawing boundaries before they're tested to the limit. The fifth reason deals with family strains and inheritance dilemmas. A new relationship later in life affects not just you, but also the people closest to you. Children, grandchildren, even extended relatives. Adult children may worry that a newcomer is monopolizing your emotions or interfering with your finances. Resentment or suspicion can surface, sometimes irreparably damaging once close ties. It's disheartening how often seniors describe a chilly or outright hostile reception from their children after announcing they've begun dating again, especially following the death of a spouse. Some children harbor concerns that the new partner's influence might complicate wills, property rights, or other financial considerations. Others fear losing the attention they have long received from their parent. Patricia, 69, met a retired educator at a local reading club. They bonded quickly over a shared enthusiasm for travel and history, and she found herself looking forward to every afternoon they spent discussing books. Yet when Patricia casually brought up this new man to her two grown sons, the reaction was barely concealed alarm. Over time, that alarm turned into distrust. They questioned every move she made, her bank accounts, her plans for the future, her estate details, and eventually they confronted her directly, accusing her of making rash decisions under someone else's influence. Devastated by the rift forming between her and her children, Patricia ended the relationship just to mend her family bonds. I never realized, she lamented, that rediscovering happiness might cost me the closeness I had with my kids. Moreover, inheritance becomes more complicated. If you opt to cohabit or remarry during your senior years, your spouse can end up legally entitled to portions of your estate, regardless of your original wishes. Without clarity in legal planning, your children may feel cheated or betrayed after your passing, even if that was never your intention. These disputes can linger and corrode family harmony for years. Staying single circumvents many of these pitfalls. You maintain clear distinctions between your own decisions and your family's well-being, shielding the legacy you have built. The closeness you've fostered for decades with your children and grandchildren can remain untangled from the complexities that accompany late-in-life romance. Far from acting out of fear, many older adults see this as an act of foresight and love, preferring to keep their personal life simple rather than risk alienating those they hold dear. Reason 6 focuses on how being part of a couple can reduce your independence and freedom. There is a unique type of liberation that often comes with later age, a calm recognition that you have the right to shape your days precisely as you wish. You can choose to luxuriate in the silence of your own thoughts, travel without having to check with anyone's schedule, or fix a simple bowl of cereal for dinner if you don't feel like cooking. After devoting many decades to career demands, child-rearing, or caring for others, this sense of autonomy becomes incredibly valuable. Yet introducing a significant other at this stage shifts the dynamic. All of a sudden, you might need to negotiate which destination to visit, or decide whose preferences rule the day. Even the most well-meaning partner can bring constraints that rob your life of spontaneity. Leonard, 77, had yearned for the day he could retire and journey by train through scenic landscapes, paying visits to old friends scattered around the country. But his new companion was the opposite. She disliked flying, disliked lengthy journeys, and preferred staying put at home. Eager to preserve the relationship, Leonard shrank his plans, canceled certain trips, and soon found himself resentful not of her, but of himself for sacrificing the vision he once had. This is the subtle consequence. It isn't always domineering behavior from a partner. More often it's these smaller incremental compromises that gradually alter who you are and what you do. By the time you're in your late 60s, 70s, or even 80s, you've earned the right to focus on the joys you have waited so long to experience, free from the demands of a partner's schedule or tastes. Remaining unattached doesn't equate to isolation or bitterness. You can still cultivate a strong circle of friends, maintain close familial ties, and explore your hobbies. However, that final say over your time and choices remains entirely yours, something that many seniors find deeply reassuring. The 7th reason, perhaps the most pervasive yet least openly discussed, is the pressure many older adults feel to settle in a relationship simply because of fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of societal judgment, and fear that the opportunity for companionship might never come again if they wait too long. Our culture often reinforces the notion that being in a committed partnership is the ultimate goal. Consequently, aging alone is deemed by many to be a failure or a sad outcome, pushing some to hastily accept any available suitor, even if the connection is unfulfilling. Dorothy, 72, experienced this firsthand after meeting a seemingly respectful man on an online dating service aimed at seniors. He was courteous, punctual, and quite intent on establishing a stable bond. Nonetheless, Dorothy quickly sensed their personalities didn't really fit. She didn't find him particularly amusing, nor did he comprehend her interests. Yet she agreed to continue, largely because she felt uneasy being single while all her peers were paired off. Half a year later, she found herself feeling more isolated lying beside this partner each night than she ever felt living on her own. This phenomenon underscores the perils of making choices out of apprehension rather than confidence. When fear governs your decisions, you end up catering to someone else's idea of comfort rather than your own fundamental truths. In the long run, this can erode your overall joy, leading to a partnership that is lackluster at best and emotionally draining at worst. The overlooked reality is that being single beyond 65 can be incredibly strengthening. It clears the path for self-study, indulging in passions, or dedicating time to personal growth, endeavors that can be stifled in a relationship. Perhaps the most invaluable lesson is that serenity isn't bestowed by a partner. It's a state you craft from within. If by chance a relationship emerges that enhances your life, wonderful. If not, turning it away need not be an act of hostility. It can simply reflect the wiser perspective you've cultivated over time, understanding what nourishes your heart and what undermines it. A sense of solitude, when free from negative connotations, can be deeply liberating. Growing older teaches us that every moment should be spent intentionally. Energy is limited, and the ways in which we allocate it matter. It's no longer about keeping a jam-packed agenda. It's about ensuring that your heart feels content, even in the quiet moments. Remaining single after 65 is not a misfortune, nor is it an emblem of giving up. For many individuals, it's the dawn of a phase filled with clarity, mental rest, and regard for oneself. It allows you to wake up in the morning unburdened by someone else's tensions, to move about the day in alignment with your personal goals, and to end each evening with the comforting knowledge that your peace stands undisturbed. We've touched on 7 key points here. From emotional strain to financial strain, from losing your daily routine to the challenge of caregiving, from complicated family dynamics to the erosion of independence, and finally, to the societal pressure that nudges seniors to settle for less than they truly deserve. If even one of these resonates with you, let it serve as a reminder that you're far from alone. Opting for solitude doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. On the contrary, it can be a testament to your self-awareness and a declaration that you choose authenticity over pretension. It is perfectly acceptable, even commendable, to prioritize calm over conflict, honesty over hollow appearances. That type of decision does more than keep you healthy. It respects the wisdom you've gathered over a lifetime. So tonight, take a step back and ask yourself not what your community, your grown children, or your peers might expect you to do, but rather what your own spirit truly needs. If the response is a yearning for quiet, simplicity, and self-governance, I encourage you to embrace that fully. In our upcoming discussion, we'll dive into the various dimensions of loneliness that older adults often face, including why one particular form of solitude might be a hidden source of personal growth. Until then, I wish for your space to be tranquil, your heart to remain abundant, and your inner harmony to be undisturbed by the weight of societal pressures.